Yo, what's up, guys? The Dallas Cowboys have found their defensive coordinator, hiring former Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. Now, guys, obviously, when we hear the name Matt Eberflus, of course, we obviously think about the horrendous season he had just had with the Chicago Bears. Obviously, the Bears had drafted number one overall pick Caleb Williams. The Bears had started off the season 4-2. Then they went on a 6-game losing streak. Then we all saw the debacles that happened with the Washington Commanders game versus the Bears with the tipped pass on the Hail Mary. Then we saw what happened with the horrendous clock management by Eberflus on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions. Absolutely some horrendous things happened to Matt Eberflus as a head coach of the Bears, and the Bears were just a disaster as a team. Now, obviously, Matt Eberflus, guys, for me, is clearly not able to handle the day-to-day as a head coach in the NFL. But that doesn't mean I don't think he can be a very good defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, of course. Now, obviously, Matt Eberflus was with the Dallas Cowboys from 2011 to 2017 as a linebackers coach, and he's coached some pretty important players in the past, like DeMarcus Ware and Sean Lee, just to name a few names, guys. But he's had his hands on a few good players, of course, and the Cowboys have had some good defenses in the past, of course, with him being on the team. Now, the Bears, obviously, their teams defensively, they were good sometimes under Matt Eberflus. Obviously, they struggled a bit at times because he was the head coach and there was somebody else making the defensive play calls, of course. But listen, guys, Matt Eberflus, when he was the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, when they hired him, he was actually really good for them. Now, the Colts, when they hired him, they were 30th in the league in the NFL, guys. I'm reading it right here. They were 30th in the league. They were allowing 25.5 points per game, and their defenses were allowing 367 yards per game. That was the Colts back before they hired Eberflus. Then when Eberflus got a hold of them, they were a 4-12 team. He turned them into a 10-6 team. They had one of the best defenses, one of the top 10 defenses in the league, guys. You know, a top 10 defense, 21.5 points allowed per game, an 11 total defense, guys, allowing 339 yards per game, guys, in 2018. Listen, guys, Eberflus had some very good years with the Colts. You know, it says here in his 4 years as DC, his defensive units finished top 10 in fewest points allowed in 3 of the 4 years, guys, and top 10 in rushing yards allowed and takeaways all 4 years. That is absolutely fantastic work by Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator. Now, if we can just have him focusing on defensive play calls, not worrying about the everyday job, making the important decisions, and not focusing on the damn clock when it needs to be stopped, I think Matt Eberflus can have some success as a defensive coordinator. Now, he's obviously got a guy like Micah Parsons on defense that he can absolutely work with. You know, he can put Micah Parsons as an outside linebacker, a middle linebacker. He can put him all over the defense, guys. He can do some really good things. You know, Matt Eberflus is known for having a very tough and aggressive defense, guys. It says here, you know, he's had a tough, aggressive defenses. He ultra-demanding culture of hustle, discipline, and teamwork. Listen, these are things you want as a DC, of course. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, the guy wasn't a great head coach. That is completely different from being a defensive coordinator, obviously. So if Matt Eberflus can come in, make the defense a lot more improved, because we all know the Cowboys were one of the worst teams defensively this year. The Cowboys were at the bottom, you know, in points allowed and rushing yards allowed. They were absolutely brutal. Now, obviously, that's going to need some help from, obviously, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones getting some defensive pieces in here to help Eberflus. But for me, guys, it seems like this isn't a horrendous hire, of course. Now, for me personally, I wanted them to hire Robert Saleh. Of course, he chose to go back to San Francisco and work with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers again. Obviously, he's been there before, so it's obvious why he would choose to go back there. But it would have been great to hire Saleh. But I think Eberflus, he's had experience as a defensive coordinator, guys. You know, obviously, he's a former head coach. You know, so he has some experience, unlike Brian Schottenheimer, who's going into the head coaching job with no experience, obviously. And, of course, like I said, he worked with the team for 7 years. So Jerry Jones knows who he is, and Jerry Jones obviously can decide and dictate what goes on with Eberflus being there and everything, because Eberflus knows how the power dynamic works in Dallas, right? But listen, guys, obviously it's not the most sexiest of hires to hire Matt Eberflus after the year he just had, like I mentioned, of course. But like I said, guys, with the Colts in the 4 years he was there, he had a top 10 defense. He did some really good things defensively. Top 10 in takeaways, of course. You know, They were right up there, guys, with some of the best defense. Got them into a wild card team at points. So listen, he can be a good defensive coordinator. There's obviously some things that need to be done in free agency. We have some great players like Micah Parsons, like I said, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland. These are some really key players the Cowboys have. Hopefully they can bring back a guy like Oso Odigizua. He's a free agent now, unfortunately. So hopefully the Cowboys can bring him back because he was very important for the Cowboys, especially when Micah Parsons had gotten injured for those 4 to 5 weeks. It was not looking good, and Odigizua really took on an important and vital role when Micah Parsons was hurt. But guys, honestly, I don't hate the hire. I'm not crazy about the hire. We got to take every hire with the Cowboys with a grain of salt, of course, with the way things have gone on this offseason so far, to start with hiring Schottenheimer, obviously that being a controversial decision. Now, Eberflus here is probably another controversial decision, hiring another guy who had some horrendous play calling decisions made this year. Like I said, obviously in the past, the guy had a 14-32 record as the head coach of the Bears, guys. Listen, not very good numbers, not appealing numbers at all. I'm not trying to hype up Matt Eberflus at all. Am I trying to be optimistic? In a sense, yeah, I am, because Mike Zimmer did an okay job, but we need the defense to improve dramatically if the Cowboys want any chance of being more competitive than they were this previous season, though, right, guys? But listen, let's hope Matt Eberflus can come in, improve this defense, make them a lot more better, guys. Maybe get some pieces in. That's up to Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, of course, helping the team get the best players in here as possible. They talk about how they're going to be players in free agency. All talk, right? They got to do it with action. So let's hope that Matt Eberflus comes in, has some success as the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. Doesn't have to worry about all the day-to-day things as a head coach anymore. He can just focus on play calling on defense, focus on defensive schemes, and getting this defense back to where it should be, guys, as a top 15 defense in the league, guys. One of the best defensive teams. Obviously, last year the Cowboys were one of the best teams, the takeaways-wise and stuff. So we need to get back there, guys, because that's when the Cowboys are at their best, when their defense is doing a lot of the work with interceptions and sacks and everything else, guys. But, guys, that's it for this video today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, click like if you like this video. Subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Cowboys, go as always, guys. And remember, if you do not watch sports, you're a more. Ciao, guys.